high school that social media would even exist, let alone be a huge part of my career. And in fact, I have met my last two bosses on Twitter before I ever met them in person. And so that's been a cool trajectory and really speaks to the power of media, not only for organizations and campaigns, but for individuals as well. So I graduated as Ms. Chung said, from the University of Virginia, and started working. First, I was at PBS, working on a show called Your Week. And at the time, in 2008, it was during the presidential election, and we were pitching a show to PBS that was about using the internet and TV at the same time. And all of the executives were like, no, nobody's ever going to be on the internet and use Twitter and Reddit while they're also watching TV. Obviously, we have proven them all wrong, but the show never went on air. So I went on to work for a media firm in DC, and really and truly and honestly, it was my skills to even know what Facebook or Twitter were. I literally helped train a lot of really high-level people to how to even get on Twitter. What does a tweet mean? Was once in all the newspapers in the UK because the media didn't even understand what a retweet was, because a high-level person retweeted a famous person who retweeted me, and it was really crazy. But that was, again, like when I really was starting out, nobody even knew how to use social media. And I, along with Jess, was one of the first people on social media, on Facebook. And Jess, I will give your sister, Rebecca, credit for giving me an invite to join Facebook back in 2004, which was one of the first classes of people even on Facebook back when it was only for college students, if you could imagine that. And so fast forward a bunch of years, really learned how to utilize and really switching, again, imagine all the companies only less than 10 years ago weren't even on social media or did it not exist. So it's been a really quick trajectory to get to where we are today, where everybody's on, everybody uses it. And so really working with a lot of high-level people in politics, and doing a lot of clean energy work with the Pickens Plan. That was the first campaign I worked on, hashtag Pickens Plan, but also traveled a lot. And I think one key thing is, as much as you can do digitally, you do have to work a lot offline. So we were doing college tours, a lot of conferences, and that has continued into my work into global education. As you know, in 2012, a young girl in Pakistan, who at the time was 15, literally got shot in the head by the Taliban for merely wanting to go to school and speaking out about it and really being passionate. It's like, no, I must go to school. She did not have the opportunity, like you guys, to go to school freely. And so she, miraculously recovered. And I remember the first big thing I did with her, I went to her house, talked to her a bit, and we were going to launch Malala Day. So hashtag Malala Day, which was her birthday, July 12th. And her big, super sweet 16 party was at the United Nations with 500 young people from 80 countries. And again, we helped recruit, getting people into the room, as well as media. And hashtag Malala Day took off. And I remember very clearly the phone call I had with the United Nations. And again, never imagined being able to do that. And saying, okay, we're going to use hashtag Malala Day. And it, again, really took off. But again, it was also a lot of effort to get people and organizations and emails to say, hey, this is coming up, in order to get them to use the hashtag. I think a really big misconception is that people can just start using hashtags and it'll take off. Granted, there are some really funny and amazing ones that go viral, I guess you could say, but it takes a lot of offline conversation and works to make anything go viral. And a lot of it is word of mouth, or I guess word of computers, where you have a lot of people sharing stuff and resharing stuff amongst their friend groups and networks. And so it's been great to also then translate that. And we've been working with Malala for over nearly 5 years now, and going all the way from Malala Day to, I've been working with hashtag with Malala for the last 2 years, which is a campaign we've been running along with the release of her documentary, He Named Me Malala. And I remember our big one was we got a hashtag in the credits of the film. So forever as this film lives, hashtag with Malala, stand with Malala will be in the film, which is incredible and crazy. But that way people all around the world can use that hashtag and connect and see how each other is staying with Malala. And we did like a social overlay, which is like using our Malala Fund colors to put over that people can change their profile pictures on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. We did an activation that if you use hashtag with Malala, National Geographic Channel, which was aired the film on TV, gave $50,000 donation to Malala Fund if we got 50,000 people using it. And let's just say we got over about 500 million people using the hashtag, which was amazing. And doing all sorts of things. Again, they get people interested as part of a campaign and keeps them interested for not just one moment or 1 hour, but for sometimes really long, sustainable periods of time. And since we've launched the film campaign, we also have done hashtag Yes All Girls last summer. We were talking about getting all girls, especially refugee girls, into school. And now we are in the process of wrapping up our hashtag Girl Power trip. And by that is also, Malala is such a big person, but she's also a young person like you guys, and making you feel like you're a part of her life, her mission, her cause, and giving you information how to get involved. And that's part of what a campaign is. It drives you to action. It drives you to also be informed. It drives you to see what other girls and other people around the world are seeing, because we truly believe at the Malala Fund that young people like you deserve a seat at the table. And so I've been spending the last 2 weeks at the UN with young people from Pakistan, Nigeria, Kurdistan, Iraq, and South in the Congo, taking them and bringing them to meet leaders, and as well as other UN and some celebrities as well, like Priyanka Chopra, and again, talking about the need for education, financing education, paying for education.
Awesome. Thanks, Gretel. Are you ready to take some questions from our gang here?
Yeah, and also happy too to talk about any technical things, but I think too, I wanted to, I guess, add to that too, is like you guys all have computers or phones, or the wonderful Miss Chung to give you the opportunity to break things down and make things really simple. I think the power of social media come from you guys and your ideas, and also showing personality. That's something we've really seen over the last couple of years, is the ability to not only use a hashtag, but to use Facebook, Twitter to spread messages, but also to spread ways in which we make each other laugh, make each other cry. And videos is also another thing. I spent most of my career making videos that go online. So again, happy to answer any of those questions as well, but I can see your pre-screen questions. Do you want to ask those? Or do you want me to just get into it?
Yeah, let's let them ask them, and I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to, since Sarah's over here in the question booth, you can see her, our mic setup isn't ideal. So go ahead and ask your question.
Well, my question was, what were some important steps on creating a social media campaign?
Yeah, so I think the thing is, when you talk about a social media campaign, social media is just one part of the campaign. So you have to think about what are the overall causes and missions. And so, for example, with Malala and the release of the documentary, is we want people to A, go see a film, B, continue to talk about it, and then C, take action for girls' education. So you have to think about what are your guiding principles and lights. And then the next piece is of like, what is this campaign going to look like? Is there a brand? Are there colors? Is there a hashtag? And I think I have spent hours upon hours discussing what hashtag should be for which campaign on many occasions. And so is it something quick and easy? On Twitter, you only have 140 characters, so it's best to be making it short. And what's something that people can use or translate? We work in 6 different languages at the Malala Fund. So hashtag with Malala could be con Malala in Spanish, or avec Malala in French. And so what are the ways too that people can interact with it? Can you use it in other ways? Or also, is it also offensive? So you have to think about ways that it can go wrong, as well as ways it can go right. So standing with Malala could also be singing with Malala, acting with Malala, So thinking about ways that you can use that. And then what is the life online? Are there ways people can upload really cool photos? Are there ways people can see that? Because I think the other thing is if you get people who start using it, you want their friends to start using it. And so you want to make it look like you're building not only a online campaign, but a movement. And so we had people creating songs and dances and artwork. We had an artwork display from over 50 countries that was all online working through Adobe 1324. So again, you just think through all the ways, and then what is the time? You can't release it all at once. So it was a longer campaign to think about what are the different moments along the way that you're going to have something also happening offline or online. Are you going to do a video chat with Malala? Are you going to do something where something can take action in person? Are you going to have something where people can invite people to their home to have conversations? As much as people think about it's all about being digital and online, you also have to have elements offline for people to really get engaged and learn something.
Awesome. There's a real New York City siren in the background, guys. Sound effects for you. Are you broadcasting live from Spanish Harlem today?
I am.
Awesome. So this is Cassie, and she is gonna pitch our next question.
Hi. How do you get such a big following on Instagram?
Personal Instagram or Malala Fund Instagram?
I think it was personal because it had pictures of like my daughter and other people on it. So.
Personally, I get a big following because I also meet a lot of people in person, and like I was backstage, I kid you not, with like Nobel Peace Prize winners and will.i.am working with some of our speakers, and they're taking photos and I'm taking photos. And I was just like, I could see they were posting on Instagram, I was posting on Instagram, and we all exchanged each other's Instagram handles, and then we were able to follow each other. And I would say a majority of my followers are actually people I know. But for maybe the other part of that, the people I don't know on Instagram, it's using hashtags, also doing a lot of things that are in the moment tends to get me more followers or notifications or likes, I guess you could say. Like if there is a big festival or an event I'm at and I'm live posting at that event, using whatever event hashtag, that's another big thing. So I'm going to hashtag Global Citizen Festival with a bunch of people in the Central Park this weekend. So being able to use that. So other people are searching on for that hashtag as well. And if they like your photo, they'll also see it and follow you. And then also following other people. I think that's also really cool. If there's somebody that you really admire on Instagram and following them, you're more likely to get a follow back because they get a notification that you followed them. So that's also another way to get Instagram followers.
Awesome. Emmy's gonna ask our next question here.
Great.
It also helps to post cute pictures of kids, right?
Yes, also thinking really a lot. Now that there's Instagram stories, I do a lot of posts on Instagram stories, and then thinking really through, and if you have really cute subjects like Miss Chung's daughter or dogs, to be honest, food, dogs, and young children tend to do really, really well. And if you make sure you put the right hashtags, it's easier to get follows, and then have your friends liking that also creates more awareness as well.
Go ahead, Emmy.
Okay. Why do you care so much about what Malala stands for?
Why do I care so much about what Malala stands for? I care so much because I had an incredible education in public school, in Arlington, Virginia, and then at the University of Virginia. And I really also truly believe that every girl in the world also deserves the opportunity and the right to get similar fantastic education. But that is not the case for literally 130 million girls around the world. That is the amount of girls who are currently not in school, not enrolled, not in uniforms, and not and for many of them not being able to even learn how to read and write. And so I care a lot about being able to ensure that right, either at high levels or very local levels. And it's been incredibly humbling experience to learn that, and also incredibly powerful to see that progress achieved. We just had on Tuesday a bunch of events at the United Nations with the President of France, the Prime Minister of Norway, some celebrities, and having that conversation about why we need to give more money around the world and dedicate resources to make that happen. And it's cool to be a part, and again, some of that digital campaigning is a part of that. But I personally care because I got the opportunity and could only get to meet people like Ms. Chung and Rebecca because of school. And so I also think that school not only provides the opportunity to learn, but also the opportunity to meet people and have cohorts and colleagues that can be your friends and be your allies throughout life.
Nice. Okay. Eric's going to ask our next question. Eric's campaign that he's designing is actually around awareness about a disease. He's doing awareness around dementia, trying to drive people to action there, just to give you some context for his question. So go ahead.
Hi.
Hi.
How do you make the campaign interesting for people to look at?
Something I failed to mention earlier is something that makes things interesting are stories and things that really make things personal. I gave, and I'm sure as you know with your campaign, there are some really big, horrifying numbers out there. And so when I talk about 130 million girls who are out of school, you're like, okay, that's a really big number. But if you talk about one story, one of those girls or two of those girls, obviously Malala being a prime example and people latching onto her story. If she didn't have a really compelling story, people would not be willing to follow her. And so again, we brought a girl from Kurdistan over the last couple of days as part of the Girl Power trip that Malala met in a IDP camp there, who literally, you know, she's only 19 and she's already been tried to married off, and she ran away in her wedding dress because she wanted to be able to continue to go to school and have rights. And so that's a really compelling story. And so I think something really important is to think about what are the journeys you want to take people on? What are the things that are going to pull on heartstrings to connect with it? But also what are the things that, you know, you can make somebody cry, but can you make somebody laugh? And what are the really light moments as well? What are the victories that you're looking at? And tell those stories, whether it's through photos, through videos, through quotes. Quotes also do really well on social media. Things that people really want to be inspired by, because I think it's really easy, especially for when you're looking at health or education or issue-based campaigns, to get bogged down in all of the shock and awe and sadness of things. But also I think it's important to also have lightness and hope in there, and that if we can do this, this great thing can be achieved. Or you need to learn about this to be more sensitive, or you need to learn about this to be more understanding. And I think those are all critically important. But I think it's the stories, it's the faces of people that really are going to matter. And I know it's really hard. It's sometimes really hard. You do have to be careful that you're not, first and foremost, if you're going to share anybody's story, make sure you ask them so it's not a surprise. Because things can get really personal, but at the same time, you allow them to become people for the cause as well. And I think that's really important.
Nice. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Gretel. Trinice, do you want to go ahead and ask our next question here? Okay. Now, Trinice is actually dealing with a pretty heavy issue for her social media campaign. She's concerned about the prevalence of rape culture and trying to get people sort of aware that it exists and what they can do to be activists within that system. So especially for her, this question.
My question was, how do your films help raise awareness for your campaign?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something I'm really passionate about, is using film to raise awareness, because I think it's really easy to think that you know everything. But I think going back to the story thing is can draw things. Films are an amazing way to show and hear and learn stats and figures, but also to bring out a narrative. What is an arc of something you're looking to share? What is something that you can pinpoint to, and again, draw that emotion out so that you're more aware of what's going on. And I think particularly for you, there's like a documentary called The Hunting Ground, which is rape culture that takes place in universities all across the United States. So that literally lends an eye, and you hear people's voices and you see things. To speak truth to power is something also that we're looking, we always look to do. And I think to put visuals and music and using that form as a way to story tell and be like, this can happen to one girl, but it in fact happens to millions. Or as we know, there's 1 in 3 women around the world who have experienced sexual harassment in some way. And so those are critically important, but again, sometimes the big numbers are really scary. So breaking that down and telling the arc of one person who can persevere, and again, why change needs to happen. And I think that's the really big thing. And then also, how can you be a part of that to make that change? Whether that's calling your politician or simply talking to your family. And I think something I've learned that the advocacy and the awareness, yes, you want it on a global or national or city level, but I think also in homes and in schools and classrooms and really small settings, that's equally important. And so thinking about how do you want to have that conversation, whether it's, is there a piece of that campaign, for example, in rape culture that you were like, I feel really motivated to or prepared to speak about it in this one way, and I want to help teens talk about it. I want to have help parents talk about it. I want to help teachers talk about it. As wide as you can be, you can also be really specific. And I think that's something that also films can have, is an ability to speak to one really specific things, but also get really in depth with it.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All right, so Freya, do you want to go ahead and ask about your specific question? So we've talked a lot about hashtags, and I think one of the things that I'm appreciating from this conversation with you, Gretel, is hearing all of the different parts of the social media campaign, like film and Instagram and hashtags on Twitter, hashtags on other social media, talking about events as part of your social media campaign. Those are all things I'm hearing. But one of the things that we looked at in our pregame research here was the power trip. So I'll hand it over to Freya.
Okay, how do you think making the hashtag Girl Power Trip has made people more passionate about your cause?
Yeah, more passionate, but also I think for us, one thing that went into thinking is like Malala was about, earlier in the year was about to set off on a lot of trips in a lot of places throughout the world. And how do you package that all together? She was already going to make all those trips. Those plans were made. But how do we use, especially social media, a way to bring people on that journey? I know I keep using probably this arch symbol, but I think it's really important to have a beginning, a middle, and an end to everything that you're doing, even though the end may not be, I achieved this bill on the hill, but it's an end to how you as your followers and your movement go on a journey together. And I think it's really cool because people meet people on campaigns, and especially online, and can connect because they're passionate about the same thing. And so with the Girl Power Trip, Malala started off in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, which is a place where there's a dense population of refugees here in the United States. And then she went to become a honorary citizen of Canada and looked Justin Trudeau in the eyes and may or may not have giggled. And then, and apparently he delivers in person. And then also went on her birthday trip for Malala Day, turned only 20 years old in Kurdistan, Iraq. Then went to Nigeria and met with politicians and girls there. And this is her second time into Nigeria. Then she was just in Mexico, and now she is wrapping up at the United Nations, again, speaking before world leaders here in New York before she starts college. which happens next month in Oxford. And so again, it's about having a hashtag that you can follow, but also then we're able to tell other girls' stories along the way. So in each of those stops, she met girls, whether they're twin activists in Canada or Najla, who ran away from a wedding, again, to continue her education, or refugees or girls who'd been attacked. We were able to tell stories along the way. So at each of those moments, we use that hashtag to kind of tie it all together. So now if you search hashtag Girl Power Trip, you can see that. Also, girls also were able to send postcards to Malala. And so there were different activations along the way. And so in some of those stops, they were able to meet Malala if they'd sent in a postcard. Like in Mexico, she met a girl from Brazil who had sent her a postcard. So there were some really unique opportunities there. And it makes people passionate about the cause. Again, you're watching Malala travel, but at the same time, you're learning about the issues and the causes in the locations that she's going and feeling, that you can understand that in every location, girls aren't going to school for very different reasons, or sometimes similar reasons. And so there's also ways to see that, and also have opportunities to give, to donate some of the Malala funds, or to take a variety of different actions. And so that's how we kind of tie that trip, the hashtag Girl Power Trip, together online, when again, a lot of things are happening offline as well.
Awesome. Thank you. So I wanted to ask just one question, because the last part of our design cycle for us here at IB, and after I ask this question, I'm going to turn the camera back to the class so you can see their response to your answer. But how do you measure the success, right? The last portion of our design cycle is evaluating whether our design was successful. So how would you evaluate whether the design of your campaign was actually successful for maybe a small time-based campaign like Girls Power Trip, and then a larger campaign like with Malala?
Yeah, so for a small time-based campaign like Girl Power Trip, that is, you're looking at an increase in followers. And I know you were asking about how do you get more followers on Instagram. Personally, but I think for the Malala Fund, we also partnered with Instagram during one of her stops on the trip. And so we were able to get more followers that way, getting more interest. And I think there is, and for both long and short period type of campaigns, there is a large discussion both internally and externally of quality versus quantity. And so during the G7, there were some letter tweeting and writing campaigns to some of the world leaders, and we got thousands of responses. It's not millions of responses, but it's thousands of responses, but they were really quality responses online. And so I think that is something that if you have people taking action, which is like, there's also tiers of ways people can engage, whether that's a retweet, like really low bar, or liking something, those are really low bar numbers. And there's a bunch of different analytical tools on all the social media, on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. You can read numbers. And I think, are you trying to measure quantity of those? Or are you trying to measure quality? Because I think if somebody clicks the link and then does something, whether that's responds to a survey, or sends in a letter, or creates their own video, or creates their own thing, because I'm sure, as you know, things like the ice bucket challenge and things where people pass things on, those are really high engagement things. And so if you have 100 of those, could be just as much value as 1 million likes, because if you get people to actually engage, that is really quality measurement, versus quantities. You could also say, again, like we have 500,000 impressions, or 500 million impressions on our With Malala hashtag. That is a quantity, which means it went really wide, again, in hundreds of countries. That is a really wide measurement. Now for you guys, to me, I think quality really matters, because if you want people, people actually learn something and willing to do something. If you have a low number but a quality interaction, that means people really care. Not to say like those big numbers don't count, because I think also part of awareness is just potentially reading or liking something and being aware of something as well, and then look to engage them at other times. So again, It's about taking people on a journey and doing different things at different moments that are really going to bring people into your movement, your cause, your campaign, your organization that you're looking at.
Awesome. Gretel, thank you so much for your time. Guys, can we give her a big round of applause, please? And you can send her off with a wave. We're going to start our next hangout. Thank you so much, and hopefully I'll see you soon.
Bye.